Hey guys, for this look I'm going to be showing you my night out makeup look. It's ultra glam, full coverage, smoky eye using my eyeshadow palette. So I'm just going to start off by doing my brows. So when I do an ultra glam look, I like to start off by doing the eyes and then I move on to doing the face. Just because I am going to be using dark shadows, I don't want it to fall down and to ruin my concealer and my base. Otherwise I just have to clean it all up again and start from the beginning. So I'm just going to go in with Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz in the shade Taupe. I'm just going to brush through my brow hairs and then just start underlining them. Because this is like an ultra glam look, I do want the brows a little bit more full and a little bit more defined than I would if it was more of a daytime look. So I am going in with a little bit more pressure this time. Still using quite small motions. Don't want to go in too heavy-handed because it is going to be a little bit too much. If I feel like I've applied a bit too much, then I will just go in with the brush and brush out the product. And I'm going to extend the brow out a little bit further than where my natural brow ends. And I'm also going to take the arch up a little bit higher, which I find just lifts my eyelid. And then at the front of my brow, I just like to take upward motions and just kind of make it look like there's some brow hairs at the front of my brow. And then I'm going to give it a brush through again. And then I'm going to do the same on the other brow. I'm just going to take it underneath the brow hairs, applying a little bit more pressure, just to give that defined look. And then I'm going to extend it just past where my natural brow hair ends. So I'm going to go in and clean up underneath my brows and carve them out with a concealer. I'm going to use the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Light Medium, which is a yellow undertone concealer. I'm going to pop that right the way over my eyelid. As you can see, this concealer is super full coverage, which is what I love. Because I am going to be using some darker shadows and some smoky eyeshadows, I want to be able to see the dark shadows. So by using a lighter concealer, it's just going to give that contrast. I'm going to go in and carve up my brow using the smudger brush. This is a flat shader brush. It's nice and thin and it just really gets in under the brow nicely. And I'm going to extend that concealer right the way past my brow. And then I'm going to blend it all together just so it's seamless and there's no creases. And make sure to really get it in that inner corner as well, just to hide any darkness that I have. Sometimes I like to go in and pat, especially with this brush, it's got quite a wide surface area, so it's really nice if you just kind of pat the concealer into the skin. And then I'm just going to blend it out with a Luxe Crease brush. This is just a clean one. I'm going to blend the edges, just so that concealer, when it dries, it doesn't dry kind of messy. It dries all blended nice to the skin, so that when I go in with foundation, it's all just going to blend together. Just going to do the same on the other eye. So now that I've got the concealer all over my eyelid, it's a nice primer for me to go straight in with my eyeshadow. So I'm going to use my transition shade, which is the shade at the top. I always use this as a transition before I go in with any other eyeshadows. It's a good shade to start off with because it's going to help all the other shadows blend together really nicely. Because you've already got that kind of wash of colour, everything else is going to just blend together instead of being a little bit too harsh. So I'm going to use it on a Luxe Crease brush. I'm just going to take that shade right the way through the crease. Now I haven't set my eyelids because I want the shadows to really stick to that base and look pigmented. So I'm just going to take that transition shade quite high up, right into the inner corner, and then just past my eye a little bit. So I want it to be more of a winged out sort of look. So I'm just going to take the shadow quite far out. I'm just going to keep building that shade up until I'm happy with it. I've gone into the shade about 3 times. And then I'm going to take this reddish brown colour at the bottom. It's like a really warm brown. And I'm going to take that directly into the crease, just below that transition shade. The good thing about this brush is that it's quite small and it's tapered, so it's really good for kind of detailed work in the crease because it's tapered, it's going to go right into it. Whereas if I was to use like a bigger splayed out brush, that would just wash the shadow all over the eyelid and it's not going to be controlled enough. I always like to have 2 or 3 of these to hand just so I can kind of use different ones to blend different shades. I'm going to take a cleaner one just to blend the edges. Again, just taking that reddish brown through the crease. Just back and forth. Don't want to take it too high up because I still want to be able to see the transition shade and then that reddish brown shade just directly underneath. So when you are doing the smoky eye, you do want to be using at least 3 to 4 different shadows because you want that kind of depth. You don't want it to be like all one colour. And then you can always just go back in. I'm going to go back in with a little bit of the transition shade again, just to run through the edges, just to make sure it's nice and seamless. So now I'm going to move on to a shadow on my lid, and I'm going to be using this bronze colour in the middle. Definitely one of my favourites. Super pigmented, and it looks really nice on a night out. I'm going to take a little bit of concealer on the back of my hand, and I'm going to use this as a eyeshadow base. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit on the flat brush that I used to carve out my eyebrow, and I'm just going to pat this all over the lid. I don't want to be taking it up too high. I want to take it right up to the crease and then stop there. So that when I open my eye, directly on the lid is the concealer, and then you can still see the dark brown smoky shadow right above that. I love using this brush for this as well because it's synthetic. When using creams or concealers or anything that's got like a creamy texture, works really nicely with it. And then I'm going to go back in with the Luxe Crease brush just one more time, and a little bit of the reddish brown shade that I used. I'm going to just run it through the crease again. This is just to soften the edge a little bit before I place the shimmer shade on it. So I'm going to take this flat brush, take it into the bronze, and then with this I'm just going to use a pat and swipe motion. So I'm just going to pat it on and then just swipe it down to my lash line. Just placing it directly onto where I put that concealer. I'm going to go back one more time into the brown and just blend. So now I've got all the shadows on top, I'm going to go in with a liquid liner and I'm going to do a winged out liner. So using the Kat Von D tattoo liner, I'm going to be creating a winged look. So I always start off just by lining the top lash line firstly, and then I go in with the wing, just so I can judge how far out I want to take it. You can always go in with a wipe and you can just clean it all up. This is exactly why I do the eyes first, so I can just go in and correct anything. So I'm just going to make the wing a tiny bit thinner. Just like that, just so it looks a little bit neater. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just get rid of any fallout from underneath my eye. And then I'm going to go and just do the wing liner on the other eye. Popped on some mascara just to make sure that my lashes are nice and black so that they blend really nicely with my false lashes I'm going to be putting on. So I'm going to be using the Poly lashes. These are my favourite lashes, as you can probably tell by the name. They're really fluffy and they've got a really nice curl to them. So from the side they look really nice and curly. The best way I find to apply lashes is to pop on a thin layer of glue, let it dry for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then once you go to stick them on, then the lashes will just stick right on to the lash line instead of sliding about. If the glue's still wet, then that's what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna pop on a little bit of glue, and then I usually like to start the face whilst my lashes are still drying. That's if I don't forget about my lashes, which I always do, and then they're pretty much dry. So I'm just gonna leave them to dry for a little bit, and then I'm gonna move on to the face. So I'm going to start off by using my liquid illuminator in the shade Jewel, which is a pearlescent pinky kind of colour. And it acts really nicely as a hydrating primer if you've got dry skin. It's going to give you a little bit of hydration before foundation. And also it's going to help make your skin look a lot more glowy when it does come to putting foundations on top. You have a nice base, and throughout the day I find this kind of shines through the foundation. Just when the foundation wears into your skin a little bit, just creates a really nice look. I like to apply it with my buffer brush. That way you can really just get it into the skin. You do look a little bit like Tin Man to start off with, but I promise you, it's a really good tip if you do like glowy makeup. I like to focus as well, especially on the high points of my cheekbones, on my nose, Cupid's bow, anywhere that you want highlighted. I just put like an extra layer of this on. So once that's all on, I'm just going to quickly stick on my lashes before they're completely dried. As you can see, that was like the easiest thing ever because the glue was pretty much dried anyway. Sticks on so much easier. And then just press them in to make sure they're fully stuck down. Especially in the corners where they tend to lift up. Just give them a press and then they should stick down a lot easier. So I'm going to move on to foundation, and I'm going to be using one of my all-time favourite foundations. It's the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade Cashew, and I'm going to use a beauty blender to apply this. So I'm going to pounce this right into the skin using the base of the beauty blender, and then I'm going to drag it right down the neck as well. And I take it over the ears and just kind of try and blend it into the hairline. I avoid going around the brows with my beauty blender because it is quite big. I don't want to like go into my brow and ruin it. So I'm going to take the same brush that I used to carve out the brow, and I'm going to do exactly the same on top, but just with foundation instead of concealer. Take a little bit on the back of my hand, and then I'm just going to go right the way over the brow. So I've just gone over the top of the brow, and this just cleaned it up a lot. So now the brows look nice and defined. For concealer, I'm going to be using the Tarte Shape Tape again, which is what I used on my lid. I'm just going to take this underneath my eyes. Down the centre of my nose, on my Cupid's bow, in the middle of the chin, and a tiny bit in the centre of the forehead as well. I'm just going to use my buffer brush just to buff this all in. I'm going to go back in with my beauty blender to blend underneath my eyes. I'm going to take one of the Luxe crease brushes again, and I'm just going to use this just to blend the concealer into the inner corner of my eye and in between the brow. Because it's a nice small brush, it just gets into those little areas that your beauty blender doesn't fit into, and especially like around the nose as well. And then back in with the beauty blender, make sure all the creases are out, and then I'm going to set it with some translucent powder. You want to make sure that before you set with translucent powder that all the creases are gone, because you will be setting the creases into your skin. I just take the translucent powder in the palm of my hand and then dab it onto the beauty blender and then just set the concealer. I'm just really going to set the centre of my face. I'm not too worried about the rest of my face because my foundation, double wear, is quite mattifying. I find I don't really need to set it. If I was to set it all with translucent powder, it would make it super, super matte, and which I'm not really fussed about. I don't mind a little bit of a glow around the face, especially because I have used that illuminator. I want that to shine through. So I'm going to move on and contour my face. So using the Topshop bronzer in the shade Mohawk and my Luxe Cheek Finish brush, I'm just going to take this underneath my cheekbones. This is definitely one of my favourite brushes to use for contouring because it's nice and small and it's got the stubby edge, so it's just going to give a really nice deep contour and it fits underneath the cheekbone really nicely. Take some underneath the jawline and then around the hairline as well. I'm going to take a Luxe crease brush and a little bit of that bronzer as well, just down the sides of my nose to contour it. So literally just from the corner of the nostril up into the corner of the eyebrow, and then I take some underneath the nose and also down the sides. So for highlight, I'm going to be taking the Laura Geller Gilded Honey highlighter. I'm going to take this down the centre of my nose, in the inner corner of my eyes, and then also on the tops of my cheekbones. And then on a Luxe Cheek Finish brush, I'm going to take that on the tops of my cheekbones and then a tiny bit on my chin. So I'm going to finish off underneath my eyes, and I'm going to be using the same shadows that I used on my upper lid. I'm going to take it underneath my lower lash line. So I'm just going to start off with the transition shade. Take that quite low down and then back in with the reddish brown. And just smoke that out. I do like it to come down quite far as well. I feel like it gives a smoky effect, which is what I like. And then I always put black in my waterline if I've got a dramatic wing liner. I feel like it makes your eyes look really nice and catty, and I just feel like it ties it all together. Because I've got such a strong liner on top, I feel like it matches really nicely. So I'm going to use the Chanel Paris Waterproof Kohl Liner in black. I'm just going to pop this in to my waterline. This eyeliner is really pigmented. You only need to go in with it lightly, and it's really, really black. And it stays all day as well because it's waterproof. It doesn't budge. So to finish off the look, I'm going to be doing my lips, and I'm going to be using my liquid lipstick in the shade Sweetie Pie, which is one of my favourites. It's a candy floss pink, and I think it goes really nicely with this gold smoky eye. So I'm going to start off by lining my lips with MAC Strip Down. And then I'm going to go in with the liquid lipstick. What I like to do is just take my middle finger and just press the lipstick into the lip, just to soften it out. And then I'm going to set the whole face with the Gerard Cosmetics Slay All Day Setting Spray. So when I'm going out, I love a super glowy chest and collarbone, and I always use the Illuminator Cream in the shade Crown. This is a bronzy gold shade, so it's perfect for the body. And I just pop it on the collarbone. Blend this in with the buffer brush. it looks so nice when it catches the light, especially in photos when you use flash. Just highlights this whole area, makes it look super glam. So I think the body glow goes really nicely with the whole glam, contoured, smoky, ultra glam look. Thank you so much for watching. All my products are available online now, and definitely make sure to tag me in any photos that you recreate of this look, or if you do use any of my products.